Guess what, Greg?
What's that, Tim?
Once again, we're brought to you by Video Blocks, and I'm really excited about this. Obviously, Video Blocks, you should know by now, it's a stock footage website. You subscribe to it, you can get unlimited stuff. But Greg, did you know that Video Blocks also has a sister site, Audio Blocks? And they offer unlimited access to premium audio stuff.
Wow.
Video Blocks allows unlimited daily downloads from a library of 115,000 video clips. Audio Blocks has 130,000 audio things.
Can you get sounds like this?
I'm sure if you typed in Eagle, you'd get something similar.
That was
anyways, 100% royalty free. It's fantastic. Even after your subscription ends, you can still forever use the products. But Video Blocks is offering you all a year's subscription to both services for only $149. This is a $100 discount off the usual price tag for our followers only. An incredible discounted deal to get both stock video and audio files for any project you may be working on or have planned for the future. Get your year's subscription today for only $149 at videoblocks.com/Gamescast 2016. That's Video Blocks. Here you go. You can see it. Videoblocks.com/Gamescast 2016. This is a new code for the bundle.
It's a new code. Pay attention.
New code, new times. I love Video Blocks. So next topic, the Nintendo Switch, aka NS.
No,
throw it up. Do it, Greg. Do this. Thank you. Thank you. We haven't talked about it.
It's not as cool.
No, it's definitely not. I want to keep throwing the X up. I'm down with the X. We haven't talked about it officially on the Kind of Funny Gamescast. We did our reaction. You can go check that out. But since then, I want to make a topic about it, specifically predicting what's going to happen at the Nintendo Switch presentation that is happening on January 12th.
Okay.
So since the reveal video that they put out, they put out the only official things they've said was there was a press release that went with that, and then there was that image that had all the Nintendo Switch partners. Then a couple days later, they announced you're not going to hear anything more about the NS until January 12th presentation event. It's going to be a live thing in Tokyo that will be live streamed for the rest of the world. That's interesting because it's not a direct. It's even though probably going to be using the same format or whatever in terms of like it's going to be on Nintendo's YouTube channel, but it's not being labeled in that way, which I think is kind of, and it is a live event happening somewhere. So it's kind of a weird middle step between doing like a typical press conference and a Nintendo Direct. So I think that kind of solves a lot of the problems that people were going to have if it was just a direct.
Sure.
But I kind of wanted to kind of get your updated thoughts on the product and where it's at, because there's been a lot of rumors, a lot of questions. Once the initial hype of the trailer kind of died down, I think people got a little bit more real.
They came to their senses.
Yeah.
They woke up the next day, looked at their partner, the NS, in bed next to them, and said, "What have I done?"
I mean, something like that.
Something like that.
I'm still fucking
Maybe it was
hyped,
a good thing.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I'm still pumped. No, don't get me wrong. I'm still totally excited. I can't wait. When they were like, we're announcing the event in January, I was like, oh, fuck, that's so far away. I want it now. I want it sooner. December. Do it after Black Friday. You know what I mean? And don't get me wrong. It's the right call to do it later. But I am anxious and hungry for more information.
Yeah.
I want to know what's happening with the NS.
I mean, honestly, like this is just yet another move that I'm looking at. I'm like, oh man, they're still not fucking up. This is awesome. Like that video I thought was great. I think that everything they've kind of done since officially has been awesome and like the right steps.
Yeah.
And again, not calling this a direct, very smart call. And putting this thing January 12th, that's too, a lot of people are like, oh, that's way too, like not giving us enough time. If you want this thing, you're going to want this thing. And if you don't want this thing, that's the perfect time to get convinced that you want one.
Yeah.
We always talk about what Bethesda did with Fallout 4, and it's just like awesome, right? And we all expected it for Red Dead. Didn't happen. Nintendo's doing it with a software launch lineup and a piece of hardware to go along with it.
Yeah.
And I think that's interesting. It's definitely this is officially the least time from a console announcement to its release that we've ever had.
And that's the concerning part. That goes back to what Colin was talking about at launch, right? Of like, okay, cool. You had a great first debut. Get the bad news out and give it time to breathe. There isn't that much. So if it like, my concern is they come out this event, they show you the price, the launch lineup, They tell you how much the game is going to be great. I feel is going to be buried in a press release after the fact what the battery life is. That's everybody's concern. What is the fucking battery life on this thing going to be? Is it buried in like some small print in a giant Excel grid or whatever that it is, an hour and a half, and then is that what runs away with it? Are we going to talk about what we're using for memory there? Is it going to be on board? Is it an SD card we're able to swap out? I want as much time to come to terms with that as possible before I buy it.
Yeah, I mean, like looking at the rumors that we got were, if these are true, and most of them seem to be from the same sources that were fairly accurate about a lot of what we officially know. It looks like micro SD is going to be the system used. It looks like there's a little slot behind the kickstand. It seems like the dock is, they're being really cagey about exactly the wording on it in terms of it's not going to enhance the system or give it more power or whatever, but they're saying that it's a video output to the TV, which could unlock a 1080p option, because the rumors are saying it's a 720p screen on the device itself, which makes sense just for it being portable. But it would be a huge like hit to them if you don't get 1080p output on a TV, you know? So the rumors are that it'll do that. But yeah, the SD card, the micro SD cards, like those are very cheap. And the fact that it's not proprietary, I think is necessary at this
100%.
point for a dedicated console that you can take portably.
Yeah, Vita.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, pretty much everything else, like the battery life, that's the thing where it's just like, it needs to be at least 3 hours. Like it has to be. And we can't expect much more than that just based on products and what it's doing. Like that's batteries aren't there yet, you know? But I think that a huge win for it would be is if it uses USB-C, which is Thunderbolt 3, the thing that Apple's using now across all its stuff, because that is, it's going to be the new universal cable that everyone's going to have, and you'd be able to plug it into just any generic USB power outlet, you know?
I apologize. That's what Apple using now. So my phone's weird Lightning port thing?
That's like, you have Lightning. The MacBooks now going forward, and a bunch of PCs are adopting it as well. It's the new like universal thing, right?
Okay.
So, but the key thing about it is that cable allows you to do display output, but also power something.
Okay.
And also transfer data and stuff. So it's like it could be very versatile to get a lot of things out of that system. But most importantly, it charges super fucking fast.
Oh, nice.
So that, while not the perfect solution, does go a long way in terms of making it more portable and making it worthwhile to take places and play. Even though, like, let's be real, like, in what scenario are you walking around needing 10 hours of battery life for this thing? You know, it's like, I feel like that's a convenience more than anything. But
sure,
if I'm on a plane, as long as I can plug it in and get that charge in 15 minutes or whatever it is, cool, great. So that's kind of where that's at. Where's your head at, Call?
I mean, dire sign for it is that 1 point something billion dollars of value was wiped out of Nintendo after it was announced. So the stockholders don't believe in it. And I don't quite understand it, because I really do think Nintendo's between a rock and a hard place with this unit. First of all, I believe in it. I think that it's going to be really cool. I don't know that what I think is really cool necessarily is going to resonate with the market. So my prediction is it's going to sell better than GameCube, but worse than N64, ultimately. So I'm thinking like 25 million units, which is not going to be good enough. And that I suspect that if Switch doesn't do kind of more meteoric numbers, that we're going to be playing their games on PS4 and Xbox One and by 2020, which is, I think that's been floating around for a while now. And I don't necessarily want that to be true, because I think Nintendo has a special magic, and we'll see how that all works out. I'm still excited about it. It does disturb me based on the Emily Rogers rumors and the other rumors that we're talking about 720. And again, I don't care about this kind of shit, myself, but at a time when Xbox One and PS4 are talking about 4K resolutions and HDR and all this kind of stuff, we're talking about whether this thing's gonna have 720 or 1080 resolution. Not gonna be good for them. Not gonna be good for the relationships with third parties. Again, this creates a massive problem, and this is what I was talking about with clogging the pipeline, especially for third parties with these iterative consoles. Now they have to patch their games for PS4. They're gonna have to do this with Xbox One. Now they're gonna have a downgraded version if they want to put their game on Switch. Just like, it's a fucking disaster. I mean, for third parties, like, I kind of feel bad for them, and I suspect Switch is not going to get strong third party support. Ultimately, we'll have it out the gate, and then we'll see how those games sell. That said, I think there's some concerning things. Internal memories, probably not going to be very strong. Probably won't matter because of the micro SDs. An engineer, a listener, got in touch with us and was talking about, from his expertise, he's like the size of the device just suggests that it just can't be very powerful. Like it just can't be. Like it's just not possible if it's going to be at an appropriate price point, because I do suspect the price point will be $299.99. And so I am worried that Nintendo again is caught between a rock and a hard place and caught in between generations, but it's even more pronounced now because the rise of these consoles with resolutions, power, teraflops, all these kinds of things people care about now is going to leave Nintendo's console in the dust. And whether or not that matters or not will remains to be seen, because if you get PlayStation 5 coming out 2 years after this thing, it's going to look really antiquated. I mean, Wii U looks really bad compared to PS4. Now imagine what this thing is going to look like, which is probably not even as powerful as a PS4, even remotely, is going to look like next to the next console. You understand what I'm saying? It's and I'm not saying that matters. Power doesn't matter. Nintendo never really cared about power anyway. Historically, we can look back on those consoles and look at whether it's the SNES, whether it's the NES. I mean, these weren't fucking workhorses by any stretch of the imagination. They just played great games. And so as long as they nail their games, I think that matters. But I still think Nintendo's in a niche. And I think the niche could be and will be bigger than Wii U, because you have to kind of, you can take the Wii U numbers and think that they're on the low end for consoles. I think the 3DS numbers are on the high end for handhelds. If you kind of put those numbers in the middle, I think you end up in the 20s in terms of millions of units sold. So I think that they're fine, and I'm excited about it, but I am really worried for them because I know that there is bad news buried in this fucking thing that is not going to be palatable. And if the dock thing is not true and they're outputting games at 720, which games on PS3 were doing in 2006, ooh, that's bad. That's bad news. And again, I don't give a fuck, but a lot of people do.
That matters. That is one of those things that does matter. It's 720 on TV is unacceptable at this point. But I don't see them doing that. I really think that that's something that they know and they understand.
Did Wii U do 1080?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that would be weird, right? To not.
I mean, a lot of games, that type of stuff, it's all different. And I don't even think that all games are. I think there's still 720 games on.
There are. And currently. Well, Xbox One, PS4 typically does run their games at 1080. I don't know what the one in between. It's 900. Whatever. Yeah.
I think that's what Xbox One was doing. That was a big brouhaha, remember?
Because they can't get the frame rate steady and the resolution high enough as it is. And I worry that they're just in a strange space. And I do think that the investors have a reason to be skeptical, because especially now the drop dead price is $300. If that thing is more than $300, it is dead. So that's the other thing that I'm a little worried about.
Question I got for you: what if it's $200? Not to set expectations.
That would be incredible.
Low. If it's $200, which I think is a huge victory for them in terms of getting sales and getting people to understand what this is and looking at it more as a premium portable device instead of a home console thing. Even though that's where they're saying.
It is a home console. They've stressed that.
Yes, it is. They are stressing that. Do you think that a $200 price point would change your 25 million projection?
Yes, I do, but I also think that they have to be very careful with pricing. I suggest to them, and they're not fucking stupid people. They know they're way smarter about this stuff than I am, but they shouldn't sell this console at a loss. If they sell it at a loss and it ends up not being very good and they're eating shit on every console loss, Nintendo's gonna be in a lot of trouble. Like that's when that war chest goes away. If you're selling a console at $80 a loss or a $50 loss and you sell 20 million of them, you're fucked if you're not making the money back on the back end. And it's look what happened to Sony, like with the PS3, which was being sold at a loss, even though it was $600, and then they ate shit for years and years, and they had other things that were helping them survive, which Nintendo doesn't. I'm not saying Nintendo's going to go out of business. That was IP is worth a fucking fortune alone, but that price point I think is unreachable for them. I don't think it's smart. I think $299.99 is still going to make that thing fly off the shelves.
And that's my thing. More than $300 is definitely worrisome. If there was a $350 option that was worth it, I'd be okay with that.
Like Wii U had that.
Yeah. But I think the $200 is that it's sweet spot's not even the right way to say it. That's just
that's outrageous.
Holy shit, you guys are fucking killing. This is insane.
That would be outrageous. That would be, if they were like $199.99 for Switch, I'd be like, that's insane. That's absolutely fucking insane that you guys are selling it at that. And they were like, we're selling it at a break even, or I would be like, how? But that's when you get a little worried about the innards. But again, that doesn't really seem to matter.
So for me with the innards conversation is, I think people need to really set their expectations correctly with this, where we're not getting PlayStation 4 and Xbox One games on this thing.
But what if we did?
But we're not going to.
But what if
that's impossible. Like, we will get I'm sure downgraded ports of some of them. I think that the Skyrim game we saw, although they've said that that's not officially announced or whatever, they were just showing that as an example. That's running the HD version of Skyrim, which is on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. So it's more powerful than last gen, but it's not as powerful as this gen. And I think that everybody just needs to get that and understand that what this is a more powerful portable Wii U. That's it.
Sign me up.
And I'm down. I'm
Mario Kart,
so down for
Smash.
that. But it's like we're not getting the
Golf,
next Call of Duty in a
tennis.
quality version on this. We're not going to get Battlefield 1 level stuff on this. And
But
I
you
just
don't need that. You don't want that.
Exactly.
You already have another console. How long ago? Colin's the last person who bought a Nintendo console trying to play third-party games there on it. You know what I mean? Like, that's the whole point. Like, if Breath of the Wild looks like Breath of the Wild on it, I don't give a flying fuck how many P's it's got. Let me play the goddamn game.
But yeah, and that's the thing is like we're seeing Breath of the Wild, which is on Wii U, and we're Mario Kart 8 and Splatoon and all that stuff. It's like Wii U games, when done right, and most of not all, but most of the first-party Nintendo games. Man, the production value on those is great. Super Mario 3D World, 1080p 60. The graphics of that game are beautiful. That entire game, the production value of it is fantastic. You put that next to many PlayStation 4, Xbox One games, and it's just like, well, this looks better, because it has a look to it. There's art to it. Nintendo has that. And so it's like, I think, Zelda is a perfect example. That game looks beautiful. It also looks old and empty, but it's beautiful. And I think that that's what we need on this thing. And it reminds me a lot. I was in the GameStop video we did earlier today. One of the points I was making is that this reminds me of the PlayStation Portable or the PlayStation Vita, but with a promise of consistent first-party content from Nintendo. So we're going to get a lot of indies. We're going to get ports of other games. There's going to be third-party support every once in a while, but I think what we're really going to get is exclusive third-party support. We're going to get the Square Enix RPGs. We're going to get that type of stuff. But then when you add on top of that, the Nintendo first-party commitment and second-party commitment on one device, like that's what I'm excited for. So I'm most excited for January 12th. Like, so what are your predictions in terms of what that looks like?
Internet video. It'll be a video on the internet.
It's good.
I don't know. I don't want to know. I'd like to imagine it's similar. I think it'll be a smaller, more intimate PlayStation 4 reveal. I think there will be an audience there. I think there's a little stage. They come out and they talk about it. That way people can clap and be excited for it. I think $299. I think that'll be the price point for it. I think the launch lineup's going to be vast. I think that it'll have a vast launch library but it'll be not a lot of, but there'll be here it is. Here's Mario Kart 8 NS
Switch,
edition.
whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Switch edition, and that's fine. That's what I want. I loved Mario Kart 8, and I'd love to play it on the go and have more time to get into it and invest in it that way. And then I think we'll get into like what is the marquee NS game going to be? Clearly, it's Zelda because we know about it. But what is that Mario game? When is that Mario game?
Yeah.
Is that a launch thing? Is it what where are we with that?
Mm-hmm.
I think we'll have those kind of announcements, those kind of like titles. That's what we'll be given to it.
I kind of hope the Mario game's not a launch game, just for the success of the system. I think that like announcing that it's coming, I think is important. I think that with Zelda obviously being the marquee title, I don't want to bury that. And I think that it's important that people look at that. And it's the Oxygen conversation we're having about Titanfall. Like I think that although Zelda and Mario are very different games, it's the same people critiquing those games not coming out consistently. Sure. And I think that it's important for Zelda to have its space. And you can then pad the library with some of those Wii U ports or enhanced ports as they look to be going the direction of. And that to me says that I hope that on January 12th, they do give us a forecast of what's to come. And it's not just, here's what's happening.
Here's the next
they need to
12
focus
months.
on what's happening. They need to focus on the launch lineup, let people know here are the games coming out. Here are all the different controller variations that you can get. Because another update since then, they said that there is more hardware, like controller stuff that we don't know about yet. What's available? What's the date? What's the price? Talk about battery, talk about all these worries that people have. I'm very interested if they get into the Nintendo account stuff. I wonder if we're going to get a
that'll be
trophy
the
or
one,
achievement
right?
system.
Because what we were talking about when we did the reacts to the trailer and talking about internally and talking is the fact that they were handling it and messaging it without saying it like PlayStation was, that this is a system for gamers. If they come out, and I'm not disrespecting anything Nintendo's done in the past, or not trying to at least, but if they come out and they treat everyone like an adult, they talk to us like adults, right? And they do head-on collision with all the stuff. We're not going to bury the battery life. We're going to run you through different scenarios on how much it would go. Here's the media. Here's how this works. We've heard you. Here's how the Nintendo account system works now. Here's your trophies. Here's all these different things. If they come out and it is a very I don't want to say PowerPointy because those are boring ass things, but you remember the PlayStation 4 event when they were popping stuff up on the back and talking about all this dumb shit that we didn't even understand. Some of us, they were just trying to sell it on indies that it's like a PC. If they come out and treat us like that and answer all the questions head on, that'll be awesome and a new look for Nintendo and further proof that they're not fucking it up. If they come out and they hide everything like that and it is very polished and then it is every digging through releases and having to try to get an interview with Reggie after the fact, then that kind of sucks.
They also said so they're going to do this event, and then in America that month they're going to do events where press can go and play and stuff too. So I think it's good. I think that they're obviously stacking the deck in their favor in terms of from January to March they want people talking about this system and the games that are going to be coming out, and like that's a great time, you know, because it sucks that they're missing the holidays, but the holidays they have to compete with all these guys. Like this, they have obviously so much people excited about this, and there's going to be games. There's actually going to be games that people want to play. People want Zelda. You know, Zelda looks great, so it's like not. I think Skyward Sword had a kind of a tainted thing to it where people were excited and then they weren't excited, and then it kind of came out. But with this one, it's like people are excited, whether they're Nintendo fans or just gamers. And even people that gave up on Nintendo are excited to play this one. And having a new way to play it where they can move on and not worry about the Wii U and like stop hating on the Wii U because there's something new to hopefully love, I think is important.
Yeah.
I was thinking about this a lot. The Nintendo Switch, the name's growing on me, especially when I can just call it the NS. Like I'm fine with the NS, but they should have called it Nintendo Go. It's the best name for that. It would have made so much sense. Work off the Pokemon Go.
But you understand, of course,
you can
that
take it on
this
the go.
is a home console.
Yeah, I do.
All your questions about battery don't matter because it's a home console.
It's a home console.
I think that's important, though. I do think that shows that they're thinking of it as a premium device, and like they're not. It's clear to people that this is something that's like the 3DS.
This is a real thing.
But this is a real thing. I think calling it a home console, I think this is telling
you.
people that. It's very important.
It's important to them, I guess to close it out, it's important for them to put it all out on the table, all on the line. This is it for them in hardware, like if it doesn't work. I'm telling you right now. Like there's no reason for them. I'm sure their investors are going to be loud and clear and get exactly what the fuck they want if this thing doesn't do well, which is putting those games on other consoles where they can make hand over fist money, and then Nintendo stock will go right through the roof. So I think you got to get it all on the line. I agree. What I would like to see them do, obviously you have to talk about price, you have to talk about all of these things. I would like to see a roadmap as well with specific dates going out, maybe even 18 months for some of these games. Like announce games and be like, Mario's here, whatever Retro's doing is here. We moved blah, blah, blah. These guys were working on 3DS or whatever games, and now they're all working on, because first party stuff had dried up. I mean, it was obvious that they were just not releasing things that were supposed to be on Wii U, which I think was smart. So have a little roadmap saying like for 18 months, we are literally going to have a first-party game every other month of a AAA quality. And then we're going to have all these indies, and we're going to pepper things in. We're going to have third-party partnerships with X, Y, and Z, and we're going to have Bethesda on board. We're going to have blah, blah, blah. I think if they do that, I think that they're going to be in decent shape. I just think people do have to temper their expectations. They're coming off a console that sold worse than Vita, which is really not good. So if they can double that, I think that's a success. And they're not going to catch up with PS4, and they're not going to compete with them. And I think that this is an Xbox One. I think that as long as they go in different directions, make it clear they're going in a different direction, then I think they can succeed. The one thing that's disappointing to me that I think is a mistake, and I don't necessarily believe them, because I think that they have to say the right thing, as we were saying on Colin Greg Live, is they have to abandon the 3DS and they have to abandon the Wii U.
They absolutely
have to abandon them outright. And they have to make that very clear. And I know that they don't want to do it yet because there's hardware to be sold and there are games still coming out, but they have to make it clear in early next year that it is over for those consoles and that handheld, and everything goes to this thing. Funnel all of that shit, and you're gonna like the 3DS fan base alone should be able to sustain it.
I mean, if I had to bet, like looking at all the things that are announced now, I don't think we have any 3DS game, definitely no Wii U game that has a date that's after February. I think like maybe there's a couple games that have 2017 as the release date, but I'm pretty damn sure they're going to be in there, or there can be some overlap with them coming out, but we're not going to get any more announcements and new stuff like that. I think that at January 12th during this thing, they will make it very clear that games, there's one library now and they're all going to be here. I think obviously in the Christmas time, they need to push the 3DS. They do have a ton of games coming out. Why wouldn't they, try to get that last hurrah out of it? But I definitely think the marketing is going to change and all this. Like, we're still supporting it is going to turn into, yeah, it's still there. It's there. Like, they're never going to be like, we're done with it, because I mean, even they're still fighting the Wii U shit right now. It's like, it's not.
Yeah, and I get it. I think you get water out of a stone or blood out of a stone, whatever. It's you do what you have to do, but that's important. The unified ecosystem is why we wanted this to begin with, and I think that their salvation comes through that. But yeah, tempered expectations are important too. If it sells better than GameCube, I think it will. Then ultimately, then but remember, I've said it before and I'll say it again. The Nintendo fan base alone can't sustain this. The Nintendo fan base alone is what the Wii U sold. So that's not good.
Or 3DS.
And 3DS, but I think 3DS is a way more casual device. I look at Wii U as something that's like, that's where Nintendo fans, they bought in on that. Wii U sold actually extraordinarily well its first month, which people forget. And what I thought was interesting is that they're going to have fewer consoles available for Switch, which I think is going to make, Nintendo is the master of artificial scarcity. And I think that you're going to have a situation like that with Switch, which I think is going to work out fine for them. The more blue ocean shit that they did with 3DS, I think, which was a huge thing that Iwata was into, which is a business philosophy, I don't think is a smart move. And so I don't look at the 3DS fan base as being the Nintendo hardcore fan base. I think Wii U is the Nintendo hardcore fan base. It's the same way I felt about GameCube versus not so much GBA, which I think was a hardcore device, but DS was a device where it started to really, or Game Boy actually was another device where you kind of have to separate those things. I think the home console market is where your core fans are, and if you can double up on those, I think you're going to be in pretty good shape. So I'll be interested to see how it all exists together, but I think bad news is going to be plenty for this thing as well, and I think it's going to take a lot of the wind out of its sails, and I hope that they're able to mitigate that.
Amen.